WABC.
Because we have no credible and specific threat, because there is nothing specifically linking what we've seen so far of this site to anything that suggests terrorism.
10:40 on your Monday morning, back here on the Bernie and Sid show. Nothing to tell us it's terrorism. We know it's terrorism at this point, and that makes our next guest, Mr. Homeland Security, and our favorite congressman, very busy on a day like today. Peter King. Peter, Bernie, and Sid. Good Monday morning, pal. How are you?
Fine, Sid. How you doing, Bernie?
Good.
Morning, sir.
First thing I got to ask you is this: as Mr. Homeland Security, talking on, and of course, Mr. New York as well. I would imagine meeting after meeting after meeting. What is your day like today with the FBI looking for a possible terrorist and explosions here less than 48 hours ago?
Yeah, I mean, it's constant, really. All Saturday night, yesterday, I was actually down at the crime scene yesterday. I actually met Andrew Cuomo when I was down there. Was talking to the FBI people involved, the NYPD people involved. And then, again, it's been the phone calls all morning, doing some television. I'll be, again, be in meetings, be in conversations, talking to sources. And it's intense. And this is very fast-moving. This is the NYPD and the FBI making great progress to move it this quickly. I think right now, there's no doubt that this was terrorism. There can't be any doubt it was Islamist terrorism. We're talking about someone from Afghanistan, at least one person. The concern is that it's actually a number of people. And this is the first time I recall where you had almost simultaneous attacks or back-to-back attacks carried out in two different states. So that's a different dimension than we've had before. And, I know that I just saw Hillary Clinton on television talking that she's been part of the policies of the Obama administration, and she did them up, she was involved up close. Well, John Brennan, head of the CIA himself, he said that the threats now are worse than they were at any time since September 11th. And what we saw the last few days, both here and in Minnesota, by the way, is an example of how we are not ahead of the curve, and we have to be very, very concerned, and we need to change some policy.
Congressman King, Bolshevik Bill de Blasio, our mayor here in New York City, his initial instinct is like his knee-jerk reaction is to say, even though it was an explosive device, clearly injured 29 people, was to say it's not terrorism. And you said this morning, you told somebody that this should be a wake-up call to dummies like him, pardon my language. I don't mean to drag you into my way of talking, but what did you mean by this should be a wake-up call?
Well, I think somehow people think that because 9/11 was 15 years ago, because we haven't had a real major attack in recent years, even though we've had a number of deadly ones, that somehow the threat isn't there. That if we just extend the hand of friendship, if we sort of have the police pull back, not do surveillance, if we don't antagonize people, that this threat will not be as real. Well, the fact is it is real. And this shows how deadly it is, and it shows that we cannot let our guard down. And the only way you can stop a threat like this, the attacks like this, is to have more intelligence. You only get more intelligence by having more surveillance. That means using undercovers. It means using informers. It means having access into the Muslim American community, because that's where the threat is coming from. Just like, and I've said this a million times, when they went after the mafia, they went to the Italian community. When they were going after the Westies, they went to the Irish community. And that's where it's coming from. Right. And the political correctness is really going to hurt us. Having said that, I have a great regard for the NYPD, for Commissioner O'Neill. I think he's going to do he's going to do an excellent job. But the fact is that for anyone, why made the Blasio? And I don't want to make this political at a time of crisis, but why even suggest that this was not terrorism on Saturday night? What he should have said, if he didn't want to panic people, is just say, right now we're examining everything. Obviously, terrorism is one of the prime suspects here, but we'll see where it goes. But to go out of their way to say there was no indication of terrorism, there's never an indication, a specific indication of terrorism. There wasn't with the Boston Marathon bombing. There wasn't with the Times Square bombing. But usually it comes pretty quickly after that. Once you start to unravel it, you see that it is terrorism. Also, if I could say something here, where's President Obama? I mean, people are saying that Donald Trump spoke too quickly by saying it was a bomb. Well, I don't know what else flows out of a garbage can, which is what they thought it was then, than a bomb. But he isn't sort of worried about this. He actually went through Chelsea last night to get to Gramercy Park to do a fundraiser. And I just find that really, shameful that the President of the United States is not spoken out on this attack. I mean, I think Trump is speaking 5 minutes too soon, which he didn't. But even if he did, I'd rather do that than wait. It's going to be 48 hours too late.
I agree. I think that he should have said something by now, and I'm not holding what Donald said against him. I'm really not. But I do want to go back to this specific guy that's on the loose right now, Ahmad Rahami. And it just seems to me that this one was kind of amateurish. In that, Peter, this guy's had 5, 6, or 7 devices. Now, one, of course, does go off by a residence down in Chelsea on 23rd Street. The other one is on 27th Street on the street, 5 more on the streets of Elizabeth, New Jersey, a couple underneath garbage cans. You've got 5, 6, 7 devices and pressure cookers. He could have killed a ton of people. It seems to me, and maybe this is just a practice run, maybe there's a bigger one to come. I don't know if you guys are worried about that, but this one seemed a little amateurish to me.
Yeah, well, there's always a concern that it's a setup. I mean, you have to, are they just want to, do they just want to see how the police and the FDNY and the FBI are going to respond? How they're going to gather? Should you have a secondary bomb there to get the police when they come in to check out the first one? All of that has to be considered, is being considered. But as far as it being an amateur, I mean, there were some specific mistakes made here. I've been told what they were. And that's, by the way, one way they were able to tie the New Jersey and New York bombs together. Even though, again, that first night, you had them saying there was no connection. Well, no one knew if there was a connection. And when they checked them out, they found out there was a connection. They were both, the defects in both of them were identical. And that's how they knew that there was a connection between New York and New Jersey. Again, he may well be an amateur. But again, I was there yesterday. And that one on 23rd Street, it's only a miracle that people weren't killed, because even though it was either under or in the dumpster, which may have sort of nullified it a bit, the fact is that was a big dumpster. That thing flew about 175 feet through the air, down the block and across the street. And many windows as high up as the 3rd story were blown out or broken. So and there were ball bearings everywhere. So if somebody had been close enough to that could have killed. Like, if there was a large group of people, a good number of them would have been killed. So it was not the best, thank God, but it was still one capable of causing a lot of damage.
It could have been a lot worse, no doubt about it. Congressman Peter King on with Bernie and Sid on WABC. Congressman King, the bigger picture. San Bernardino, the terrorists were Muslims. They were here legally. I think the male was born here. Orlando, same thing. Omar Martin, son of an Afghan immigrant, here legally. Last Thursday, the madman with the meat cleaver, he's right outside our building here at Penn Plaza. He slashed the hero cop's face.
Right.
He was a Palestinian from Jordan. The stabbing suspect in St. Cloud, Minnesota, a Somali Muslim immigrant. And here now you have this guy from Afghanistan here legally, a naturalized citizen. So they're not refugees. The Syrian refugees is one thing. That's a dangerous thing. But this influx of legal Muslim immigrants that Trump says, hey, if they come from terrorist states, we have to stop it. How does that reflect on that proposal?
Well, it certainly shows why he's saying it. I don't think we should ban them per se, but I do think it's much, much stricter vetting. If you're coming from a country where there is a terrorist influence, the vetting should be much stricter than somebody coming from Sweden or Denmark. I mean, that's just a reality. Also, let me say something.
But hold on. But you're saying there, because I agree with you, the vetting has to be more strict, although I think people could always lie. Even through the most difficult and stringent process, they could always lie. But you are saying you don't want to ban these people forever, shut them out of the country.
No, I wouldn't. I would have much stricter vetting than we have, really strict vetting on it. If I could go to Minnesota, when I held the hearings, I guess it's 5 years ago now, on radicalization in the Muslim community, and I was attacked and everything, which didn't bother me at all, but it's ironic now. At the first hearing I had a Muslim from Minnesota, who, by the way, was testifying for me, and he described in detail the terror threat from the Somali community in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. And he went into great detail for that. And because of that, he was attacked by people on the panel. That's when Keith Ellison broke down crying about how Muslims are being persecuted. This was a Muslim American whose nephew, who he had raised as his son, had been recruited by al-Shabaab. He was fighting in Somalia. When he tried to come home, he was killed. And he sort of had the local mosque, he covered it up. Had the local mosque threaten people if they cooperated with the FBI or the police. So that is a hotbed of terrorism, the Somali community in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And I tried to warn about this 5 years ago, and people try to disregard it. So you're going to see a series of attacks, and there have been over the years, coming from the Somali community in Minneapolis.
Now, in some of these recent attacks, Congressman King, there were knives used, meat cleavers, knives, pressure cookers, pipe bombs. Maybe Obama hasn't spoken out because there were no guns used. He can't blame the weapon of choice here, which was, again, a pressure cooker or a knife. Maybe that's why he has no easy answer. His pat answer doesn't relate to these attacks.
Well, nothing he's done gives him a pat answer to this. That's for sure. And you're right. If it had been the gun, I'm sure he would have been out front the way he was, by the way, with the attacks in Orlando. So, no, this is a terror threat. This is for real. And we're not going to get it by, as Hillary Clinton said today, building up more friendly relations with the Muslim community. They're not being persecuted. Nobody's bothering them. The police are carrying out the same surveillance there they would in any other community. And the more we back down and back away, we make lives, we put everyone's lives in danger, including the good Muslims living in those communities. And certainly, as we saw in Chelsea, it could have been many, many people killed. And what happened in Elizabeth, what happened in South Jersey, all of that, this is the threat we face. This is for real. We can't make believe it's not there.
No, listen, in our own city, I believe we've thwarted, I don't know how many attacks, 30 attacks, 40 attacks, depending on who you believe. And this one just brings it closer to home, Peter, that, that they are here in our city, in New York, in New Jersey, looking to do some bad things. So even though nobody died in this one, this does kind of reinforce that New York, more than any other, I know Minneapolis had that thing this weekend too, but New York, more than any other place, is under constant attack every day, every month, all year. And I think what it does is, on one hand, I'm a little cautious this morning. I'm also pissed. Like, stay out of my city. Stop this nonsense. We went through this 15 years ago. So there's a little bit of both, where you're a bit nervous, and you're also, as a New Yorker, you're pissed.
Yeah, I mean, you got to fight back. And let's just say for the NYPD, does a great job. There's nothing they could have done to prevent this. These guys, or guy came over from Jersey with bombs. There's no way the NYPD could have been tipped off of that. What it does show is that other police departments and other jurisdictions should be much more aggressive. And I mean, how did this guy buy all this material? Was he not known to anybody? Was there nobody in the community thought this guy may be dangerous, or this guy may be up to something? And that's the advantage when you do have a police department that's monitoring what's going on. Even though there's been it's been a little tougher lately. The fact is that those cops in New York still do a great job. But you can have the best department in the world. The guy comes here from out of town, and he plants a bomb. There's no way you're going to stop him. And that's why you need the intelligence.
But speaking of, and a last word here, Congressman King, the NYPD, it was an off-duty cop in Minnesota. It was an off-duty cop who stopped the guy with the meat cleaver and the other cops who shot him. Both two hero cops. So to that, I would say to Colin Kaepernick, you can suck it, pal.
Absolutely. I mean, those two guys, the officer who, by the way, is from Long Island, the guy who, again, got hit with the cleaver in the face. What a heroic guy he is.
Yep.
And the guy in Minnesota, that off-duty police officer. God, I mean, what a hero he is. And think of people that are alive today because of him.
Save black and white lives alike. Congressman Peter King on the Bernie and Sid Show.
Fantastic job, Peter.
Always thank you very much, sir, and good luck and Godspeed in your endeavors in the coming days.
And the good news is, and by the way, the Mets keep winning, Peter, so that's good news.
Yeah.
That's right. I'll see you guys at Citi Field when they have the first game.
There you go.
Okay.
Congressman Peter King on Bernie and Sid back after this.
77 WABC. Traffic and Transit.
The wreck in Greenwich on the Merritt northbound at North Street.